WKBW, only 3 weeks to go before NFL teams can add substantial, or so they hope, players that will play a big role in the future of their organizations. And the angling for the first round of the 2019 version has only just begun. Last time, in my second iteration of mock, the Buffalo Bills made a move down the board to capitalize on value. And this time around, I have them capitalizing on value in a different way. Without further ado, mock draft number 3. Round 1-1, QB Kyler Murray, Oklahoma. The future of Josh Rosen is the most fascinating part of the top selection. I can't get the idea of New England out of my head, with as many draft picks as they have and an ideal situation for him to go to. I'm guessing Washington, Denver, and maybe even the New York Giants to see what it would take. 2.2, edge Nick Bosa, Ohio State. I'm not crazy about this fit, but the 49ers can't ignore the value of the player, who is quite possibly the most talented in the draft. 3, edge Josh Allen, Kentucky. Some consideration to Quinnen Williams here, but the Jets could certainly use a bendy edge rusher that can win against a left tackle. The bonus of having the Josh Allen versus Josh Allen talk twice a year is too hard to resist, as well. S4, edge Montez Sweat, Mississippi State. The Raiders need to win off the edge much more than they did in 2018, which is what they hope Sweat will come in and do for them. 5, LB Devin White, LSU. The future of Gerald McCoy might also impact this selection, but for now, he stays on the roster and Devin White addresses a major position of need. 6, **** trade from NYG, DT Quinnen Williams, Alabama. Sitting at 9th overall, the Bills have a desperate need to add a 3-technique defensive tackle that can generate pressure from the interior. The Bills do have the option of staying at 9th overall, but should Quinnen Williams, the prototypical player the Bills covet at the glaring need and at such an important position, to Sean McDermott's defense, fall outside of the top 4, I would not be surprised if GM Brandon Beane got on the phone to make a move up the board. After all, we've seen plenty of proof that Beane is willing to move up the board in the draft. To the Bills, I believe the hierarchy of positions, in terms of importance to having a core player in roster building, goes something like this: quarterback, middle linebacker, 3-technique defensive tackle, defensive end, center. I believe offensive tackle is important to the Bills as well, but not quite like the 5 core spots I listed. The Bills have addressed quarterback, middle linebacker, and center. They have 3 starting caliber defensive ends on their roster for the 2019 season. And at 3-technique defensive tackle, all they have left is Jordan Phillips and Robert Thomas, a spot crying out for a starter. Head coach Sean McDermott agreed with the notion that stopping interior pressure is more difficult than stopping an edge rusher, and called getting heat on the quarterback from the interior critical. So, if the cost for adding a player that can be an impact starter at a core position to their philosophy is a 3rd and 5th round pick, so be it. Talent, and the potential for dominance in one player trumps spending a 3rd round pick on a role player and a 5th round selection on a lottery ticket. In Williams, the Bills would add a nuisance along the interior who has the size, explosiveness, length, pass rushing moves, and run-stuffing ability that could turn him into a home run of a selection. He is a day-1 starter, and could become the best player on the defensive line by the end of the season, and a core building block for the Bills moving forward, no less. I think a 3rd and 5th round pick is worth the potential of all that. Trade details: New York Giants receive 9th overall, 74th overall, 147th overall. Buffalo receives 6th overall, 232nd overall. 7, OT Jawan Taylor, Florida 8, TJ Hawkinson, Iowa 9, from BUF, Ed Rashawn Gary, Michigan 10, **** trade, from Den, QB Dwayne Haskins, Ohio State. Just in case Cincinnati had designs on taking Haskins, Washington decides to move up to bring in their quarterback of the future. Trade details: Denver receives 15th overall, 46th overall. Washington receives 10th overall, 125th overall. 11, DT Ed Oliver. Houston 12, Tay Noah Fant. Iowa. Adding receiving weapons around Aaron Rodgers has to be a priority for the Packers in the draft, and getting a pure receiving tight end with elite traits will help him infinitely. 13, Edge Clelin Ferrell. Clemson 14, G. Jonah Williams. Alabama 15, from was C. Garrett Bradbury. NC State. After losing Matt Parody, the Broncos are in need of a starting center. Instead of investing in the quarterback position, the Broncos choose to insulate Joe Flacco. 16, Edge Brian Burns. Florida State 17, from Clee. QB Drew Lock. Missouri. They needed an extra first-round pick to do it, but the Giants go with a quarterback to develop behind Eli Manning. Or, better yet, to develop in front of Manning. 18, OT Andre Dillard. Washington State 19, CB Greedy Williams. LSU 20, WRDK Metcalf. Ole Miss. The value for Metcalf is too good to pass up here for the Steelers, who need a player that can offer something a bit different than top wideout Juju Smith-Schuster. 21, OT Caleb McGarry. Washington 22, G. Cody Ford. Oklahoma 23, G. Chris Lindstrom. Boston College 24, from Kai. QB Daniel Jones. Duke. The more I think about it, the more that Oakland taking a swing on a quarterback with one of their first-round picks makes sense. Derek Carr hasn't looked like the promising player that we saw for the last 2 seasons, and the Raiders can get out from his contract if they so choose. 25, trade, from Phi. DT Christian Wilkins. Clemson. Seeing value drop down the board, the Colts use their draft capital to move up and secure the services of Christian Wilkins before the Raiders are on the board at 27, a player that they didn't expect to be available there. And they also have another player on their minds for the 26th overall pick. Trade details: Philadelphia receives 34th overall, 89th overall. Indianapolis receives 25th overall. 26, WR Hollywood Brown. Oklahoma. Had Brown been fully healthy going into the draft, he's likely off the board before this selection. However, since he is going through a foot injury, the Colts take a slight risk and hope for a huge reward in the form of a game-breaking slot receiver. 27, from Dahl, CB DeAndre Baker. Georgia 28, trade, from Lack. LB Devin Bush. Notre Dame in need of an upgraded linebacker. The Rams give up a minimal fee to move up and select Bush before the Chiefs, the division rivals of the LA Chargers, have the chance to select him. 29, Edge Chase Winovich. Michigan 30, from No. WR Hakeem Butler. Iowa State. A.J. Brown got a lot of consideration here, but with Butler still on the board, the star potential was a bit too much to ignore. 31, from Lar. T. G. Dalton Risner. Kansas State 32, WR A.J. Brown. Ole Miss. He's every bit of a first-round pick, and I think he's a bit undervalued in this year's draft class. Round 233, CB Byron Murphy. Washington 34, from NYJV and G. Nate Davis. Charlotte 35, DT Jeffrey Simmons. Mississippi State 36, S. Chauncey Gardner Johnson. Florida 37, OT Greg Little. Ole Miss 38, Tay Irv Smith Jr. Alabama 39, S. Jonathan Abram. Mississippi State 40, Edge Jalen Ferguson. Louisiana. Tag. Over the last 2 drafts, the Bills haven't invested a single selection into players that rush the passer. With the first-round pick of Quinnen Williams, and now the second-round selection of Jalen Ferguson, the Bills have now invested heavily in a vital component to their attack past just the 2019 season. While tight end and wide receiver were both considered with this selection, there were significant factors as to why Ferguson was the pick over them. With wide receiver, the Bills have 4 players on the roster already that need playing time. At tight end, the value of the pick didn't line up with the players available at the position, with T.J. Hawkinson, Noah Fant, and Irv Smith already off the board. The value, at least with how this board shakes out, is with Ferguson, even if finding a defensive end isn't a need for the upcoming season. Jerry Hughes and Shaq Lawson are both due to become unrestricted free agents, which means the Bills have nothing substantial besides Trent Murphy on the books for the 2020 season. Ferguson has the desired build that the Bills look for in a defensive end at 6'5", 271 pounds, and with a 34 1/2 inch arm length. He is a highly productive player, and while he doesn't get you the bend around the edge that some of the other available edge defenders does, he does provide enough technical ability to get to the quarterback and to also work in unison with the rest of the defensive line to bring down the quarterback. He's dependable as a run defender, and at worst, should be a core rotational player for years to come. He also has the potential to be a starting player in this defense for 2020 and beyond, depending on how he adapts against better competition. It's not the flashiest of selections, but the Bills know exactly what they'd be getting in Ferguson, and that's a contributor right out of the gate. Twitter, @JoeBuscaglia.